Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes. Now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox. Clean feels good.
I am Nicole Khalil, and you're listening to the This Is Woman's Work podcast. We're together. We're redefining what it means, what it looks and feels like to be doing woman's work in the world today, with you as the decider. And while that's meant to be inspiring and exciting, it can also feel a bit daunting and a lot challenging, right? I mean, one of my coaches used to ask me 3 questions whenever I'd start to spin or get overwhelmed by something that felt really big. She'd ask me, what's working? What's not working, and what's missing. And lately, I can't stop circling around that last question. What's missing? From me, from us, from our work, our relationships, and the world that we live in. And sure, there are lots of potential answers, but the one that keeps flashing in bright neon lights for me is hope. Hope is what's missing. Sure, we have doom, gloom, shame, blame, finger pointing, heartbreak, burnout. We've got those in spades. But hope? It feels like it's slipping through our fingers. And the truth is, without it, it gets really hard to show up, to keep going, and to believe that what we do here at work, at home, in our relationships, and in our world, that it actually matters. Which is why today's conversation is about finding and holding on to our hope, practicing it, building it. Because hope, like confidence, isn't just a feeling, it's a habit. And it might just be the lifeline, the connector, the fuel, the light, the strength that we've all been missing. The thing we can't afford to go without any longer. Our guest today, Dr. Julia Garcia, is a psychologist, author, speaker, and the brilliant mind behind the 5 Habits of Hope. For nearly 2 decades, she's been helping people in some of life's toughest moments, students, leaders, parents, and everyday humans just like us, move past fear, doubt, and hopelessness into healing and transformation. She's known for blending science with raw lived experience to create tools that are actually practical, and her mission is clear: to prove that hope isn't something that you wait to feel. It's something that you practice. So, Julia, before we dive into these 5 habits of hope, I'd love for you to share when you realized that hope wasn't just an idea or a feeling, but something that you had to practice or choose in order to create and survive. Does my question make sense?
Yes, but I'm still recovering from your intro. I got so emotional. That was so powerful. It brought me back to it. Brought up so many emotions because I'm even reminded how important this is, how important hope is because of the depths of despair that can take us out, that can just completely ruin our relationships, not just with others, but with ourselves. So that intro, I feel like was a standalone. You could have just ended the podcast right there because it was really powerful. So I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you for that podcast intro. That was amazing. It was never something I planned on. I was never someone who associated myself with going to be the hope ambassador. I actually thought it was real corny. I thought it was real hope is not something that's not serious. People aren't going to take that serious. That's fluffy. So there was no way I thought there was any legitimacy. Let's say it all together.
I do that all the time. I swear to God, I know the word, and the minute it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, that's not it. That's not the word.
No.
You're all good.
Okay, somebody knows how to pronounce it out there
We
listening.
know
So
what you're
you
talking about.
interpret. Okay, y'all
Yeah.
interpret for me, right? But I was not thinking of myself as someone that was really hopeful. And a lot of that is because I had been to very dark depths of hopelessness. And I had seen and witnessed people in some of the darkest moments of their lives. And professionally, starting at a really young age, I was positioned to kind of help people navigate that, like very young, before I could even drive a rental car. And I was working with people all over the country who were sharing really, really dark things that they were experiencing or had experienced that they never told anybody before. And it really allowed me to start to observe patterns. And one of the patterns that I couldn't look away from was when someone felt hopeless, it was the most powerful thing for them to start exercising, like getting back up or feeling motivated again, was identifying things that they were hopeful for. But the problem was, is people sometimes associate hope with being happy or, hope is a feeling. It comes and it goes. So I really dove into like, how can we develop a habit around this? How can it not just be this fleeting feeling that comes sometimes and goes another? And that's really how I started to put those pieces together and be interested in it is how did I get out of that space and how did the people I'm working with and encouraged and inspired by how are they continuing to go from that place from hopelessness to hope. And so that's kind of what started me on this journey because I never thought I would be here.
It's funny. I think a couple things that I can really relate to and that I hear a lot. First, the thought, we write the book we most need to read,
Mm.
popped into my head. I've heard a lot of authors say that. And it is curious how often our life takes us to the topic or to the thing, as opposed to, I think sometimes people think like, oh, from when I was 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be an ambassador of hope. For most of us, it doesn't work that way. So can relate on that. And then the second thing is this thing that you said that I think we all can relate to is we often correlate hope and happiness as if they're the same or that both feelings need to exist at the same time and that it's more often than not the opposite. So like I think people often conflate the words courage and confidence.
Hmm.
And I
Yes.
find them to be like overlapping circles. And yes, there's a point in the middle where sometimes you feel both, but more often than not, you choose one and then the other is created from that. And so in this case, in my personal experience, I've found that I've had to choose hope first and then maybe happiness catches up at some point.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense because we can think we're doing something wrong if we don't feel happy. And we
Yes.
can think then it can reflect our identity. We must be wrong. We must be doing something wrong because we're still not feeling super joyful. And for me, when I was in a place where, and it's not like I never go back to this place. I'll get there sometimes too, even now where I'm at in my life as a mom and trying to juggle career and all those things. But I can get into a place where I just get in a funk
Hmm.
and I can't really find my way out. And I feel like if I'm not super positive about it, then maybe there's something wrong with me and I'm going backwards.
Yeah.
And then that is like a wrestle. And so when I think back to habits, the habits of hope for me were emotional habits I had to work through because that was the problem. It wasn't everyone has external things and I had a lot of trauma, big traumas, little tiny traumas, and I saw other people through their traumas, but for me the big battle was in my mind.
Hmm.
So the habits really started to develop of how can we retrain our thought processes and our thought patterns so we can interrupt them and redirect them so that we're not beating ourselves up if we don't feel a certain way or not.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you about the 5 habits of hope, but I just want to say something. As you were talking, I think sometimes people think things like hope or confidence or success or it's like a place you arrive to
Mhm.
as opposed to an ongoing journey. And I don't know if you were going to feel this way. I sometimes do, where it's like I wrote a book about confidence. And so when I am feeling insecure or feeling a lot of fear or doubt, I put extra pressure on myself, or it's like I wrote a book about confidence and I don't feel confident. What a fraud I am.
Mm,
Right? I think it's important with a topic like this. It's like you're not going to feel hope every minute of every day,
mhm,
100% of the time. That's not an achievable goal or a state of being. It's the habits that
mhm.
get you back there faster, better, quicker that we're talking about here, right?
Exactly. I like to say I was building when I built a crisis intervention line, a crisis hotline during the height of the pandemic when there was all these lockdowns. We were really inundated with people from Asia, Africa, you name it, texting in. And one of the big things that I focused on with my volunteers who volunteered their time to connect with these people all over the world and all times of day was the process is a process. And we kept owning in on that. The process is a process because if our feelings, they come and they go and they could be a roller coaster up and down, what we want to do is build a process for them, but not attach our feelings to our identity
Right.
because then we will be on a constant roller coaster loop. If we're like, we have to be confident all the time. That's too much pressure. And pressure can either crush us or it can propel us, like a rocket ship. But a lot of times it crushes us.
Yeah.
So we're taking some of the pressure off by replacing it with a process. So when
Yeah.
I feel this, and then we go through some of the habits or what other tools you have to help you process whatever that feeling is so that you don't attach your identity like I'm a fraud, I'm a loser, I'm nobody, I'm never going to get there because I'm X, Y, and Z. And it's removing that replacing those words, not just
Right.
removing them, but replacing them with a process.
It's such an important distinction. It's not our identity. It's something we practice. It's something we choose. It's a process, right? Okay, so I have to ask you, what are the 5 habits of hope? And can you walk through them a little bit and like how we put them into practice?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's start with the first one. Reflect, number one. It's an emotional habit. So, reflection, I put in the book different prompts to help you exercise them and put them into practice. And one that I do for this specific reflection prompt is you think of a time where maybe you were struggling and you like held it in, like you withheld the struggle, like you didn't open up about it. And I like to think of this as like holding in your feelings physically, and this is allowing us to just like open up just a little bit. When we reflect, we don't ruminate. So there's a difference there. We're not going to like hang out and camp out in our feelings, but we're going to reflect on a time that maybe we struggled. It could be like I struggled with motivation, or it could be something that happened. I actually have a few here because I do these exercises all over the country all of the time. And this person is a coach and a teacher, and in their own handwriting, they said, I struggled because my husband cheated. And so, as you can see, anything that comes to mind, I struggled because of how I was feeling. And then when we put it into a prompt, then we can identify and reflect on it in a way where we revisit it without staying there.
Okay.
So, when I'm struggling, it's important to pause and reflect and why this is so difficult. And it should be a little bit simple so that we can practice it daily. But it is very difficult sometimes because we're doers.
Right.
We are high achievers. We are go getters. We are just in constant motion. So to reflect is kind of countercultural
Hmm.
to how we associate high functioning, high productivity, success. Oh, I got to pause. So that's why it being a practice is really, really difficult and why it needs to continue to be a process and a practice because we'll find ourselves just kind of doing anything to distract ourselves from doing it.
Julia, I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So, in the reflect part, are we doing this daily, or is this when we start feeling hopeless? Are we thinking about something current? Are we going back in the past? What is the question we ask ourselves when we reflect?
I am struggling because, or I was struggling because.
Okay.
So when we're in an area of anytime we're thinking about like this is a difficult moment, you're having a hardship, and it can be for no reason, but identifying that is powerful. That's a great place to start even. I don't know why I am struggling, but I'm and then you'll start to realize more things will start to unpack.
If you're anything like me, drinking enough water every day sounds great in theory, right up there with getting 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep and folding the laundry right away, which is why I found a smarter way to stay hydrated with Cure. Cure hydration packs are clean and simple, plant-based electrolytes, no added sugar, and just 25 calories. They hydrate better than water alone, and get this, they actually taste good. My favorite flavor is lemonade, but they have several great flavors that you can try, which make drinking water feel like less of a chore. They even have a Cure Hydration variety pack for kids. JJ uses them over long practices or tournament weekends, and honestly, I use them then too, because hauling kids around to all of their activities should qualify as a sport. Listen, staying hydrated isn't just about water. You also need electrolytes. That's why I love Cure. It's clean, tastes great, and actually works. And for This Is Woman's Work listeners, you can get 20% off your first order at curehydration.com/womanswork with code Woman's Work. And if you get a post-purchase survey, make sure to let them know you heard about Cure right here. It really helps support the show. Don't just drink more water, upgrade it with Cure. Your Amazon cart or your sex life? One deserves more attention. I mean, be honest. When was the last time you actually learned something new about sex? According to Beducated's latest survey, only 45% of people say they're really satisfied with their sex lives, and most of us wish it lasted longer and felt more like connection than like a checklist. And that's where Beducated comes in. They have over 150 online courses on sex and intimacy, everything from self-pleasure to spicing things up with your partner. Created by the world's top experts with real video tutorials and practical exercises. This Black Friday, don't just buy more, invest in intimacy instead. You can join now with 65% off the yearly pass. That's only $69 a year, and it's locked in for life. Use code WomansWork69 at beducate.me/WomansWork69. It's risk-free with a 14-day money-back guarantee. So stop buying crap that you'll forget. Start investing in experiences you won't. Again, that's Beducate, BEDUCATE. Visit beducate.me/womanswork69 and use code womanswork69 for 65% off the annual pass. Leaves are falling, lattes are being questionably flavored, and it's officially time to get cozy. And nobody does cozy like Cozy Earth. For me, fall and the holidays are all about curling up on the couch, lighting the fire, and changing into my PJs the second I'm done for the day, which is tricky because it's also the season of year-end goals, family coordination, and endless holiday shopping. And there's always that one person who's impossible to shop for. For me, it's my mom. So last year, I gave her Cozy Earth's pajama set, and she loved them so much that I'm just going to do it again. They're made with the softest stretch knit that feels incredible and sleeps cooler than cotton. So they're cozy without the overheating. They're so good, I'm putting them at the top of my list too. And Black Friday has come early at Cozy Earth because right now you can stack my code, Woman's Work, on top of their site-wide sale, giving you up to 40% off in savings. These deals won't last, so start your holiday shopping today. And if you get a post-purchase survey, mention you heard about Cozy Earth on the show. Make sure to wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. I get the sense part of this, too, is doing it a little bit from a neutral place. Like, this isn't an opportunity to overthink or to judge yourself or whatever. It's just to get it all out. I'm struggling because bleh. Is that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Can we practice it real quick?
Sure.
Impromptu?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you be willing to share something you've maybe struggled with in the past?
So this will be interesting timing-wise when we release this. But right now, I'm struggling because we are putting the podcast now on YouTube for the first time after almost 6 years of doing audio only. And I feel like we have the audio only thing figured out. Not that there isn't opportunity for growth, not that there aren't things that we could be doing better, but we know what we're doing. And now we're going into this space where I have no fucking clue what we're doing. We're going to start with zero credibility, right? There's going to be no subscribers. Like 250,000 people might listen to the podcast, but on YouTube, it's going to show 10 or whatever it is, right? So I'm struggling because it feels daunting. It feels new. It feels hard. It feels like being exposed, all of that. I could go on, but let's start there.
Well, you actually organically and naturally went into habit number 2 as well. So
Okay.
that was like really powerful and beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I can relate a lot. I was banned from I got just earlier today, my publisher and I were talking, and they were trying to access my Facebook account, and I've been blocked because of hacks. And so I have to start all over. And I've kind of been offline for a while. And it can be, you said the word, I believe you said the word exposed.
Yeah.
That hit me really powerfully. And I think anyone who's starting anything new might relate to that. That is probably one of the most vulnerable places to be. And so what you said I felt is the emotional risk, because you didn't, in that, when we talk about, when we reflect, we don't always have to identify our feelings. Actually, most times we don't. We don't have language for our feelings. And a lot of times it's because if you're like me, you go on what I call feeling detours, where you do just about anything other than feel. So you ain't going to acknowledge something. I'm going to distract myself. I'm going to deny it. And these feeling detours become my emotional habit pattern.
Hmm.
And so for you to be able to do that, like without even just a prompt, that's because I believe you've been journeying through this, and you're practicing them whether you even know it or not.
To be fair, I'm sure I go on a lot of feeling detours. I consider myself more of a thinker, right? And that's a safer space for me. I know what it is to think or to strategize or to plan or whatever. And the feeling part, that part's scarier. So working on it. And yeah. Okay. So then the second habit is, you said risk?
Risk,
Okay.
yes. And not the external adrenaline junkie risks, like I like to jump out of airplanes. Not that one, which I have done quite a few times, but it's the emotional risks, the things that draw us closer to people, deeper in connection with each other, the things that terrify us to say out loud. I originally wanted to call the book Everything I'm Afraid to Say, because it was so many things that inspired the book are things people have been terrified to say out loud. Because it's one thing to admit it to yourself, but another thing to like put it in the world, and then it becomes real. But it's a beautiful thing because it takes its power away. I
Hmm.
say it makes space for you to have something else. So once you risk, then the third emotional habit is to release. And this one is about letting go. It is about, when we think back to those fists that I said, I like to talk about the fists because our bodies carry a lot of emotions and feelings and fears and all of those things. And we can kind of function every day, all day long, holding these fists together. And I can like grab my coffee and take a drink. I can maybe get on my phone and get creative and try and figure it out, still holding my fist. And these fists to me represent all of the pressures we have to provide, to perform, to be perfect, to start off our YouTube channel with like a crazy subscriber list just from the jump, and like whatever it is, like all of the things that cause us to feel things, we can hold on to it. And sometimes we can hold on to it so much it holds us back.
Yeah.
So the risk of releases, or risking and then release, is letting that go. And that came because I do an actual exercise. Do you mind doing it with me?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so grab your two hands and squeeze fists together, and then squeeze it as tight as you can. Okay, but don't bleed or anything. I got nails, so I gotta make sure I don't cut
Mine
myself
are a
up
little
here.
short right now, so I'm
Okay.
good.
So if I came up to you, could I open them?
No.
Okay, don't punch me, all right? Like through the screen. But that's the kind of strength we're gonna have here. And this represents how much struggle we've had, and we have to hold it. We have to hold on to it. And so what happens is people will do this for a significant amount of time, and then I'll count to 3. And if you're listening and doing this, keep going. I'll count to 3, and then at the end of 3, you'll open up and then just say the word that comes to mind of what you felt. 1, 2, 3.
I felt lighter, like there was
Lighter.
a lift,
Mm.
maybe relief a little bit, because holding my hands like that actually did start hurting.
Yeah, it does, but we can do it. That's the wild part, is you can do it. And that's what I see people doing, women in particular, is day in and day out, they're holding so many things, myself included, and we can get to a place where we hold it all in, and it no longer, like, it's like we can do it, but it's restrictive. And when people would do this in front of me, when they would open their hands, they would say they felt a release and a relief. And that's where the emotional habit of release really was inspired.
Okay. Is there an element of the risk and the release involving other people or a trusted friend? And the reason I ask is because something you said aligns perfectly with my experience is that when we put words on our hard feelings or fears or doubts, it releases a lot of its power.
Mhm.
When we hold on to it and we keep it internal, that's where it has so much power over us. And so my question is, as we practice these 5 habits of hope, is there an element of trusted partner in this?
Definitely, 100%. This is I call it sharing the struggle, which is the next habit. I love how you're like the perfect segue in, and that's habit number 4, and that's receiving, and that's being able to receive support. And again, with the language, we'll go circle back there. This habit, the prompt with it is saying, I needed. And that's a way we can start to say, what would support look like, feel like, smell like, taste like, whatever that is for you in that moment? And is it someone you trust to say something specific to you? And I'll grab someone's here. This person is a teacher and they said, I need a guide to tell me that I could do it and show me the steps. So it's identifying, and this is probably one of my favorite, most practical habits is when I'm struggling, I always ask myself, what do I need? What would support look like or feel like for me? And that is when your support system, the pillars in your life start to come into play. And you want to make sure they're people that you trust. And it might be a guided professional in some areas, and it might be a friend in others. And that's something that you'll navigate as you continue to take the risk. That's why it's an emotional risk, because when you open up, your hand can get slapped, right? We can get betrayed, we can get hurt. And so it's continually building the habit and doing it in a way where you feel safe and ready. And it's no pressure that you have to do each one every time. Sometimes maybe you're like, I'm not ready to take an emotional risk right now, but I can do a little reflection. And that's cool
Right.
too.
Well, sometimes when I work out, I convince myself all I need to do is show up, or I just need to
Mhm.
get on the treadmill for 5 minutes or whatever. And the reason I bring this up is sometimes you just have to convince yourself to start with one. And then when you're in it and you're doing it, it might feel a little less scary or a little easier to move to the next. I did have a question, curious your thoughts on this. I think a trusted advisor, professional, close friend that you trust, yes, because you are risking when you put something out there. I do wonder, and maybe I'm just batshit crazy, but sometimes I put some of these feelings, not the really personal ones. I'm a fairly private person, but I am happy to share fears or things that are going on in my world. And I do it with my email community. So
Mm.
sometimes I will put things out there, put words on it with a large group of strangers in this case, for the most part. And I am careful about what I put out for sure. But it's been amazing how often I'll get an email back, like multiple in a day, where it's like, me too, or thank you for saying something that I'm feeling too, or here's something that's really helped me. And it, again, putting words on it lessens the power. It makes me feel less alone. What are your thoughts about leveraging community or strangers or anything like that? And it is totally okay if you're like, do not do that.
I think building community on honesty is and authenticity is the most powerful thing you can build community on. I think the only time I would steer like towards maybe like caution, like yellow lights is what I call it, is when you're still going through something and you haven't had like time or your process to process it. And it's a place you share, but not a place you get um receive maybe like if you're in the middle of it, then I think it's maybe better to work through those things with the people in your community privately before it's more public. And that's just to protect you because you'd be in a more vulnerable state at that point and so more susceptible if someone did the opposite and said really cruel things, it could, make you feel a certain way that you don't deserve to feel
Yeah.
because
No,
you're in
that's
the
a
middle of it.
good point because I have gotten the opposite on several occasions, and where I'm coming from
Let
when
me
I
know who
send
they are. You
Yeah,
tell me.
right?
Send them my
no,
way.
that's
I'll take care of it.
I love that because that's my reaction when something like that happens to somebody else. I'm like, friend, if you need somebody to come and flip a table for you, I'm your girl. So, good tip I'll also add to just the loving reminder, whether it's an email or a community or a social media, once it's out there, you can't get it back, right? So be careful about that. Okay. So we've got reflect, risk, release, receive, fifth one.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. Black Friday game day on Prime is an epic day of live sports. It all starts at 9 a.m. Eastern with the Capital One Skins game. Then, Black Friday football returns when the Bears take on the Eagles at 3 p.m. And it culminates with the final night of Emirates NBA Cup Group play with Bucks Knicks at 7 p.m. and Mavs Lakers at 10 p.m. Black Friday game day, only on Prime.
The Who's Down in Who Newville were making their list, but some didn't know Walmart has the best brands for their gifts.
What about toys? Do they have brands kids have been wanting all year?
Yep, Barbie, Tony's, and Lego. Gifts that will make them all cheer.
Do you mean they have all the brands I adore?
They have Nintendo, Nespresso, Apple, and more.
What about...
So the Who answered questions from friends till they were blue. Each one listened and shouted, from Walmart? Who knew? Shop gifts from top brands for everyone on your list in the Walmart app.
Let's have you maybe practice that fourth one real quick. What would support look like or feel like for you during this time of what you reflected on and what you shared you felt?
Oh, fuck, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me because this is the scary part. Honestly, this is where I get tripped up because, we're taught we're not supposed to ask for help or it's a sign of weakness. And I know that that's bullshit. And this is where I get like, ugh. So I do ask and have asked for help in this. My editor is also one of my very best friends. We've known each other for forever. And so she's in it with me and we're brainstorming and she's taking on extra editing, adding the video element. She's learning extra skills and I'm like, how do I compensate you for this? And she's like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Right. So there's that. Or my husband is an encourager and he asks and we're hiring a coach, somebody who has 20 plus years in podcast experience and is a consultant with YouTube on podcasting. So we've got help there. But here's where it gets really scary is where I need help is some of the people who listen to the podcast to go to YouTube and subscribe. I need people to tell their friends about it. I need people to tell their daughters about it, obviously appropriately aged, maybe 16 plus, right? Support looks like to me is people rallying around this thing that hopefully provides value and makes a difference in their lives and their days and helping us grow there. And that it just feels risky because I know everybody listening is busy. I mean, we ask our listeners to do reviews on Apple all the time and it is like pulling teeth. So I don't know, that part feels really scary because I've had a lot of experience of doing the ask and feeling disappointed or let down. And that might not be fair, but that's where I get nervous about that.
No, I can relate so much. And I'm sure a lot of people listening are growing their own businesses and they know the struggle is real and they're putting themselves out there creatively. But listeners, I'm going to lean in a little bit. I'm going to put on my mama bear voice here. You just heard audibly something practical you can do to support this pioneer of a woman who is blazing trails, who is adding value into your life on a regular. So if you could take a minute to just honor that, to celebrate that, even if the YouTube show is totally different, she's posting videos of elephants, you just go and you support and you show love. Because I like to say we got to celebrate courage. And the time thing, that's a facade, let's be honest, because I got plenty of time where I am scrolling. And I actually studied this, and most people consume media more than they contribute to it. So this isn't like a shame on us thing. This is like an invitation to just switch it up a little bit and to start celebrating some courage in the community that you're a part of right here, right now. And the woman who is pioneering this community and building it. So if you want to take a minute, pause this right now, just go to the YouTube channel. This is Woman's Work. Easy, simple. You got it. And for me, every single day, I have a very small social media following. And a lot of that is my own. Everyone for the past 20 years has told me to get up on social media, and it's like sometimes I'm like, I missed the boat, whatever, but I was terrified of it.
Yeah, don't
Terrified
do it. Oh, it's an
because
absolute suck and drain of energy, time, and money. I did that. I checked that box. Obviously, for some people, it might be brilliant and wonderful, but there is a reason I'm not on social media anymore. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
But you
no,
didn't
it's
miss the
real.
boat. You skipped the boat that is going to, the friggin' triangle, whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying. But what's helped me, and I believe probably what's helped you, is you're still contributing what you believe in and your voice in this forum. And I am a professional speaker, so I go into places and I work with people in person. And I do want to grow my social media at some point, but for me, when I work really hard on something, I just released my own podcast, Journey with Dr. J. Again, there's no one watching it. My mama is always my number one commenter, okay? But for me, I realized I want to live a certain way, and that's to be brave.
Mhm.
And so I have to surrender. That's a practice for me. Outcomes all the time. It is never, I cannot attach my identity or what I'm doing to outcomes. Even if the outcome is validation, approval, success, whatever that is. I've been doing this work that I do for so long that if I relied on the validation of others, I would never do anything.
Yeah.
And what I realized though, when I reflect on my own career, how I even got started in the speaking space was I used to say things, they used to call me the edgy speaker. I was raw, I was edgy. That was all the things people would say. And I talked about everything no one wanted to talk about. I talked about drugs, sex, alcohol, um, all these like taboo things. And I would go into schools like universities and I would talk to these students about these really difficult things that nobody ever talked about. And I would just come alongside them, see what they were struggling with, where they needed support, how I could support them. And what I realized is when I was just raw and real about who I was, and a lot of that came out in like spoken word poetry that I would deliver, it didn't translate. I didn't like promote social media, but I knew what I was doing was what I was supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And it was building the person I wanted to become so that I could design the life I wanted to live.
Right. You just articulated basically my entire experience and choice about doing this podcast and all of it. So I thank you for advocating for the help that I need, the support that I need on my behalf. That was so appreciated. And I think we all need more courage and more hope in the world for sure. Okay, I cannot let you go without asking about the fifth habit.
Okay, we'll get right to it. The fifth habit is one of my favorites. I'm one of six kids. My mom worked multiple jobs and she didn't have a ton of money to decorate the house. So she would go to garage sales and she would find old furniture and she would repurpose it. She would find ways to reclaim it and then bring it into our home. All of our furniture was like reclaimed somehow by her. And so the fifth habit is repurposing. And it's taking a feeling that maybe has an ugly connotation to it, like anger. I'm angry all the time. I'm angry that you are struggling in any way, shape, or form, but that anger now, I can repurpose it and I can repackage it. And I like to say I'm like a professional repurposer. I take feelings and I no longer look at them as like one way. They're neutral. It's what I do with them that holds the most value and impact in my life. So it's the emotional habit of repurposing. And that is where you ask yourself, I am hopeful for. And it could be a person, it could be a thing, it could be to be brave,
Mhm.
it could be to show up right now and practice something like a vulnerability you've kind of been putting on the back burner. It could be to follow a dream. But these hopes, they start to make us, you can feel it. You can feel yourself come alive a little bit more again and start to have vision. And then when we have vision, then we can start to really build.
Mhm. I like so much the reframe of I'm hopeful for. I kind of did it in my own mind, and I'm hopeful for YouTube being able to help us reach a new, younger audience. Because the amount of times I've said and people have said, I wish I would have heard this when I was younger, right?
Mm.
And it's an opportunity for us to impact a new group of women. I'm hopeful for the idea that we actually have a community here, that this isn't just me talking out into the void, right? And that we really mean it when we say women supporting women. There's so many things to be hopeful for. And I am reminded, I often talk, you said repurpose, I talk about reframing. And I think that that's a lot of the work that I do as a coach. I help people reframe the way they're seeing something or perspective. But one of the things that I've noticed is it's easier for somebody from the outside looking in to reframe something. I always use the expression in coaching, it's hard to read the label from inside the bottle. And so I like the prompt of I'm hopeful for. It helps us do that. And again, I ask, is there any benefit to having somebody help you repurpose? Because sometimes you just can't see it clearly when you're in it.
Yeah, everything I've ever done, even personally, but professionally, I've never done alone, ever.
Right. Ugh, the myth that anybody's doing anything alone. Thank you.
I had to work yesterday. I had 3 keynotes and I brought my family and my husband, and then we had a podcast right after. So he's got the kids outside with some goats playing and we're doing the pod. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm pulling it. Like, this is not just me. There's no way I could do anything on my own. So I have a little system. If you're listening, it's really quick, but it's like what I call a tap in. And so it's a tap in text. So sometimes I just have like 3 or 4 people that I'll just tap in with like a GIF. I'll send them a little GIF or a color being like, need help.
Yeah.
Like, and then they'll just, and that's their cue. Just be like, they'll just say something like, you got this. Or stop being a sissy chica. Like whatever. They'll just say something because I have to have people in my corner personally. I can do things alone. I'm a very independent person, but I don't want to anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's so much more fun to do it together anyway. And it reminds me of a practice my sister does with her friends is they had a conversation of like, when I'm down, when I'm feeling hopeless, when whatever, here's what helps me. And then they have like an SOS word that they text out to each other. And everybody does what that person has already communicated helps them when they're feeling that way. And I love the concept of tapping people in and of almost being prepared for the inevitable hard days or the idea that, of course, we're going to need help. Everybody needs help. Nobody accomplishes anything without support and help. So, Julia, I have 1 million more questions that I could ask you. And I'm so grateful for you to be on the show today and for you writing this book and tackling this thing that is so missing in today's world. So thank you for all of it. I want to make sure our listeners know how and where to find and follow you. So first, for the love of all things holy, go buy the book, The 5 Habits of Hope. Go to bookshop.org. And let's keep local bookstores in business or Amazon or wherever you buy books. And then you can also find and follow Dr. Julia Garcia on Instagram. And we'll put the links to that, her website, all the other social medias, the podcast, all of that in show notes so you can find your best platform. But again, go get the book. And Julia, thank you for an amazing conversation and for being such a great support to me. That was wildly unexpected and just so grateful for it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I feel like we're going to have a round 2 someday.
Yes, for sure. Okay, friend, let me close us out with this. Hope is not naive. It isn't blind optimism. It's not about pretending everything's okay when it's not. Hope requires strength, and it's a practice. It's the choice to believe in possibility even when the evidence suggests otherwise. It's when we have the courage to look past the odds, the fears, the logic, and the doubts. When we choose to look for the light, even if, or maybe especially if, we're surrounded by darkness, hope becomes an unexplainable force, one that connects us, fuels us, and inspires us. And here's the thing about hope that we cannot forget. It's contagious. When you practice it, the people around you can't help but catch it too. And maybe that's how we turn the tide. One choice, one habit, one spark of hope at a time. Hope may not be the easiest path, but it is the most powerful one. And choosing it today, tomorrow, and the day after that, this is woman's work. If you're anything like me, drinking enough water every day sounds great in theory, right up there with getting 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep and folding the laundry right away, which is why I found a smarter way to stay hydrated with Cure. Cure hydration packs are clean and simple, plant-based electrolytes, no added sugar, and just 25 calories. They hydrate better than water alone, and get this, they actually taste good. My favorite flavor is lemonade, but they have several great flavors that you can try, which make drinking water feel like less of a chore. They even have a Cure Hydration variety pack for kids. JJ uses them over long practices or tournament weekends, and honestly, I use them then too, because hauling kids around to all of their activities should qualify as a sport. Listen, staying hydrated isn't just about water. You also need electrolytes. That's why I love Cure. It's clean, tastes great, and actually works. And for This Is Woman's Work listeners, you can get 20% off your first order at curehydration.com/womanswork with code Woman's Work. And if you get a post-purchase survey, make sure to let them know you heard about Cure right here. It really helps support the show. Don't just drink more water, upgrade it with Cure.